Hello and welcome to First Academy. In this video, let's look at the concepts that are in use in the DET or the Duolingo English Test. In this video, we're going to be talking about the reading section in the DET. Unlike the other tests in the DET, you do not get to read a passage and then answer questions. You'd be looking at a passage and then identifying the words that are there that are given to you, half completed words. You are expected to complete the words accurately based on the context in which they're presented. So in this video, we are not just going to be looking at what skills that are needed. We are going to be looking at one actual test, and we'll be guiding you through as to what the concepts are that are being tested for each particular word. But first, let us look at what the skills that you need. So what are the skills that DET tests you on? So the first skill that DET obviously tests you on is your ability to understand the context. So when do you use the word make versus using the word made? Or when do you use the word warp and when do you use the word wrap? Now, if you look at these words, they have the same number of letters, but depending on the context, the word that you use might entirely change. If you're using the present tense, we use the word make. If you're using the past tense, we use the word made. If you're talking about something that is twisted, then we use the word warp. And if you're talking about gifts and presents, you use the word wrap. Now, another aspect that you again need to focus on is understanding word forms. Now, let's say you know a particular word that fits in there, but what if you do not know the right form of the word? For instance, let's take a look at a word like candid. Now, candid is an adjective. If you'd want to convert that into a noun, it would become candor. And what about candidate, which is already a noun? What are the other forms of the word candidate? That would be candidature. Now, beyond word forms, you'd also need to have a certain level of vocabulary. So what is the right word? What is the meaning of the word? For instance, we usually come across a lot of words that people use incorrectly. A very common example that we encounter is the word typical. Quite often in India, people use the word typical to indicate something that is difficult or out of the ordinary. In reality, however, the meaning is exactly the opposite. Typical means something that is routine, something that is common, something that is usual. So having a good vocabulary resource is definitely going to be a plus when you're looking at the DET. Now, beyond vocabulary, you have spelling. Now, this is a very common problem for all of us, whether we are comfortable in speaking English or otherwise. There are some words which we can never be sure of. You can be absolutely certain that you'd encounter some of these words as a part of the DET exam. So what are the words that you're likely to encounter? Let's look at this word. Is it occasion or is it occasion? Is it a double S or is it a double C? Again, the same number of letters, but the spelling is different. Now, are you looking at the word opportunity with an O or opportunity with a U right after the word, right after the letter P? Once again, the same number of letters, but different spellings. If your spelling is incorrect when you're taking the test, you will not be scored for that particular blank. So spellings are going to be really important. And the most challenging aspect we think is the collocations. So what do you mean by collocation? A collocation is a group of words, or in most cases a pair of words. If you look at look at here, we have a couple of collocations: work force and work pressure. Now, in most cases, force and pressure can be used as synonyms, but workforce is talking about the personnel or the staff, and work pressure is talking about the stress that you face at work. So these are four of the most commonly tested skill sets in the DET. Now, how are they tested? Let's go ahead, look at a sample question set, and then we'll look at each particular word and figure out what it tests. We have a set of questions here. Feel free to pause the video here before you go on. There are the DET tests will have anywhere between 8 to 15 words depending on the complexity. Sometimes you might have only 4, but be ready to look at a test or a reading comprehension paragraph with as many as 15 words. So take some time, take a look at the screen, pause it if you wish to, and see how many words you would be able to figure out. Now, not all the words are really difficult, but some might really be challenging and some might have you scratching your head trying to figure out what that word is within that context. Take a look, and as we progress further, we'll break this paragraph into two separate bits and we'll be looking at one part at a time to make it easy for us. Now, if you look at the words that are there, the passage is obviously talking about the environment and the damaging effects and all the other bits that are associated with it. So the moment you look at words like environment, the moment you look at words like damaging and effects and pollution, you already have a certain idea. You already know what the context is. Now, whenever you're looking at words, please understand that the context becomes really, really important. So if you're looking at the first sentence, you already have the first sentence ends at this part. Now you already have three words that are unfinished you're expected to complete. Now look at the entire sentence and figure out what it is talking about. Now we are talking about something that is related to the environment and these things now that can make their damaging effects. This word there automatically indicates that what we are looking at here is going to be a plural form. Then, so what is the plural form? Now, if you look at the word environmental, now you might know a form of the word. For example, the word aggression is something that we all know, but unlike other environmental aggression, that doesn't make sense. So what is the word that we are looking for? We are looking for a word like aggressors. Okay, SSORS. Unlike other environmental aggressors that can make their damaging effects immediately known. Now we have a word that starts with V and it is 3 letters long. The most common knowledge would contain only one word, that is via, which means through. Now the environmental aggressors make their damaging effects immediately known through redness and burning. Pollution now is way dash. Now we are looking at something that is comparative, is way. They're comparing pollution with other environmental aggressors. So what do the other environmental aggressors do? They make their damaging effects immediately known. So this means that pollution does not allow the effects to be immediately known. So pollution hides its effects. So how does pollution hide its effects? And what do you call something that hides its effects? So we are looking at the word sneaky, but since this is a comparison, you look at the word in the comparative form. So you say that it is sneakier. Now let's look at the entire sentence. Unlike other environmental aggressors that can make their damaging effects immediately known via redness and burning, pollution is way sneakier. So we already have three words: aggressors, via, and sneakier. Now let's move on to the second sentence, where the first word is talking about some sort of a matter. Now we already have a part of the word and we have the word matter. So this is an example of a collocation. Now matter is a noun, so this word will become an adjective which is related to the word partic. Now matter, partic, we know the word should be related to particles. So matter that contains particles would become particulate matter. So not only are we looking at a word form, we're also looking at our ability to understand collocation. So particulate matter, that is one. Microscopic bits of dirt, that is two. Dust and soot. So we have A, B, C and D. So these four things are small enough to get into pores and generate something. Now what happens when these things get into pores and generate. And remember, we are still talking about the damaging effects. So what they can generate is some sort of a pain or suffering. So what is the word? Now here it is all a matter of vocabulary. What we are looking at is the word inflammation. And make sure that you get the spelling of the word right. So we have the word particulate and we have the word inflammation. So this is where DET expects you to understand the vocabulary. Now that we are done with one half of the test, let's look at the second half of the question set. So now if you look at it, the first sentence has no blanks and we ought to be thankful for small mercies like this. Now look at the second part. The first sentence is talking about that. Now in the previous part we've looked at inflammation, and inflammation can or the damaging effects, and inflammation and those damaging effects can cause everything from hyperpigmentation to acne to fine lines as early as in your 20s. Now once again, remember, pollution is sneakier and bad, and it's a social message here. Try to pollute as little as possible, and if you have your AC turned on right now, either turn it off or set it to 24. Okay, now let's progress. So dash urban something aren't the only ones at risk. So this particular aspect, this particular part of the sentence tells us that we are talking about people. And what sort of people are we talking about? We are talking about people who are urban, so people who live in the city. And what are they called? They are referred to as urbanites. So this is yet another word wherein you're being tested on your vocabulary resource. So do you know the word urbanites is what is being tested here. Now urbanites aren't the only ones at risk. Farming and manufacturing dash. Now this ought to be a very, very simple word. It starts with IND and it's pretty big. So farming and manufacturing something in rural and suburban areas release. So what release things? So automatically you must understand that we are talking about something that releases or something that releases stuff. So what are we talking about? We are talking about industry. But again, we have a few more things left. So it cannot be industry. What has it got to be? A plural form. We are talking about industries. So I, E and S. And how do you know that this is plural? We are looking at subject-verb agreement. So we have the word release. So if the word was industry, this word should have been releases. So indirectly, Duolingo is also testing on your ability to understand grammar. And one of the most important aspects of grammar for a new learner of the language is getting the hang of subject-verb agreement errors. We'll be leaving a link for a subject-verb agreement test in the description below. Be sure to check it out. And the next blank has got to be really, really easy. What do the industries release? And since we are talking about pollution, automatically the answer would be pollutants. Once again, plural. Please remember pollutant, and if you feel that there's, or if you see that there is one blank remaining, simply add an S, and that should usually sort most of your troubles out. And where are these pollutants released from? From dash, factories and plants. So pollutants can be released from machinery, factories, and what sort of plants? CHE. Now it shouldn't be very, very difficult. The answer is chemical plants. So there we have it, 5 other words: urbanites, industries, pollutants, machinery and chemical. So let's look at the entire thing at once and look at what are the words that we've come across and what we can expect in the actual Duolingo test. So there we have it, all the words that we have looked at so far. So first we've looked at the word aggressors. Then we've looked at the word wire. Then we've looked at the word sneakier. Then we moved on to the word particulate. Then we've had inflammation, and then the word that would have got us slightly scratching our heads, urbanites. And then we have industries and pollutants and machinery. And the last word, the easiest of all, is chemicals. So now if you look at it, this particular question set is a fair mix of difficult and very, very evident words. So you can be absolutely certain that in an overwhelming majority of the Duo reading tests, you'd be able to pick out at least 2 or 3 words. And if there are fewer, the smaller passages are usually easier. Now remember, we are saying usually, but not always. Okay, so make a note of these words, and if you want to attempt more such free tests, we are again leaving a link to a lot of free tests in the description below. Make sure that you do check them out, and if you have any questions, you could obviously leave the questions in the comments below. So before you leave, please remember, if you like what you've seen, give us a thumbs up. We'd be absolutely delighted. And if you want more tests, there are tests and the links to the tests given in the descriptions below. And if you want to visit our website, it is www.firstacademy.in. And if you want to directly go to the tests without any information about us, you can go to prep.firstacademy.in. Or if you want to directly look at the tests, please check them out in the description below. And as far as we earn, that's all from us at First Academy. We are still hoping that you're being productive in your lockdown and that you're having as much fun as you can have without endangering yourself or your family members or your friends or the rest of the society. So till we come up with another video, we hope you stay tuned to us. We hope you learn more, and we hope you are all happy. Please stay safe. Bye bye.